Welcome to Virginia Union University, Mayor LeVar Stoney. We are happy to have you here, and I hope you enjoy your visit today.
My name is Aaliyah Jones.
My name is Aisha Crumlin.
Samaj Braddock.
I'm Daniel Brown.
Shane Davis.
Kobe Williams.
My name is JC Pummel.
All right, Miss Dominique.
How you doing?
So, what's your major?
I'm a secondary English education major.
Why'd you choose that?
I chose secondary English education because I knew that I'm very much not, I want more of a higher, older crowd. So probably like high school, probably start in middle school and then go to like a high school level. I definitely want to ultimately teach creative writing. I love English, I love writing, I love being able to express yourself. I think that a lot of people pass over English because they think about it with just knowing a sentence, knowing what's in a sentence, knowing how to create a paragraph and write an essay. It's so much more past that. It's poetry, it's lyrics, is everything, screenwriting, playwriting, it's everything. And I think that a lot of people lose that connect and they don't feel like they can express themselves with English. So I want to bring that back, the life of English, back into the classroom.
I'm a special education major.
Why'd you choose that?
I feel like special education people, they don't really get voiced very well. And in high school, I got to take a lot of courses where I got to go visit some of the schools and really interact with some of the special needs there at my high school and along with the school district around me.
My major is mathematics, secondary education.
Okay. And why'd you choose mathematics and secondary education? That sounds complicated.
Yeah. When I was in 8th grade, I had a wonderful math teacher. Her name was Miss Greening, and ever since then I knew I wanted to teach math. The way she taught it was so fun and interactive, and I was like, wow, I didn't know math could be that fun, and she gave me a new look on math, and I hope to bring that into my classroom when I become a math teacher.
My major is elementary education.
Why'd you choose that?
Because when I was younger, a lot of male teachers had a big impact on my life. So I decided to become an educator.
My major is political science, history, secondary education.
Okay. And so you want to be an educator?
Yes.
Okay. Why? What made you want to do that?
Because when I was young, I always wanted to teach. Because teachers made impacts throughout the community, and they serve as also mentors for students who necessarily don't have a figure in their lives. So the reason why I wanted to become a teacher is to change and transform students' lives in and outside of the community.
So why'd you choose this career path?
Well, I have never had a black male teacher.
Never?
Never. Never. 21.
Never had a black teacher?
In K-12.
Okay.
Here I've had black professors, but never had a black male teacher, so I didn't understand what they went through or if it was a good career for them. Because when you have role models, my dad was in the house, but he was in the shipyard and stuff, and I didn't want to do that. So I saw basketball players, football players, doctors and lawyers and stuff. So I was like, maybe I want to be a doctor when I grow up and go to school for that. But then I got here and started teaching and seeing the impact that it had on troubled black male students.
And what were you teaching?
I was at Henderson Middle.
Okay.
And I saw that they really didn't have any black male teachers either. So I was seeing as though maybe they needed some in the field and I would come out and try and teach in Richmond.
It's a great opportunity because you teaching somebody that's gonna make a difference down the road in the future. I'm inspiring younger people. Like people inspired me when I was growing up to be able to make a difference in the world.
So what brought you to the school? Was it just football or?
Football did bring me here, gave me an opportunity to further my education. So yeah, I would say that football did help me get here with my stepping stone into this university.
So with this forum that just happened about education and young educators and moving into the job market and your career path, what do you want to do with your career?
I just want to educate young black men, not only young black men, but just show them like the way of life and educate other male figures, because there's not really enough male guidances in this world. Like you see a lot of grandmothers and mothers, but you don't see that many grandfathers and fathers. So I just want to be a father to the kids.
So if you could give one message to the next up and coming you, what would you say?
Definitely don't rule out any opportunities you get. Because, I mean, I never thought I'd be all the way here in Virginia. So, I mean, just take every blessing that you get and, you know, really see it through. Like, put in the hard work. You might as well do the best at what you get. So,
I would say never give up. You are wanted. You are sought after. Everybody wants you. Never give up. Believe in yourself. Keep pushing. Push yourself. Don't stop. Like, reach for the stars. Like Mayor Stoney said, reach for the moon so you can land in the stars. And I really love that quote that he said. I might be living by that now because I never thought of it like that. But yeah, just keep reaching for the stars. You're going to make it. You're going to be somebody one day.
Don't let anything stop you, and to let life happen. That's my motto for 2018. I think that if you try to if you let things get to you, or like when things start happening, you don't just go with the flow and deal with the situation and let the thing happen and let it play out, you're never going to experience and learn what you were supposed to learn, because everything happens for a reason, and you're going to learn something from whatever has just happened to you. So I think that letting it happen, letting it flow, and just go with it to see where it takes you, you're going to learn from it either way, whether it's a positive outcome or a negative outcome.
I think that as a people, we don't show a lot of value in education, that it's something that can't be taken away from you. We show that sports are great. We show that being true to your friends and stuff is great, all that stuff. But you lose your legs and stuff like that, you won't have anything left. Right. So you need to have your education and put an emphasis on it, that our people needs to move into the middle class and even up into the upper 1%, so that we can provide opportunities for each other and stick together as a community.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you again for coming out to this very special event. In teacher education, we do all we can to partner with local school districts, partner with other organizations and agencies that can do things to help enhance our program and enhance the experience for our students. We want to especially say thank you to individuals from the Provost's office who are with us. You'll meet them in just a moment. And also to our seniors who are in the field during their senior field experience. Seniors, raise your hands again. Woohoo! These young people are working hard in somebody's school. And today they were allowed to come away for just a brief moment so that they could participate in this program and get a chance to meet the mayor face to face. So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Goodrich, who is our Provost and VP of Academic Affairs, and Dr. Moon to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, and welcome. Greetings on behalf of our President, Dr. Hakeem Lucas, in his absence. Thank you, Mayor Stoney. We are delighted you're here to express the urgency of preparing students in teacher education to fill the critical gap and needs relating to the teacher color shortage. We look forward to the further dialogue, and we look forward to our partnering with Richmond Public Schools as well. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, students. We also say welcome from the Provost's office. We look forward to the partnership with Richmond Public Schools. We have a very long-standing history with Richmond Public Schools and a lot of investment in what happens with our urban students. We know that we have a teacher of color shortage, so we have a lot of work to do in terms of preparing students at your level, college level, to enter our school districts and begin to work with our young people. Our urban students have special needs that are typically different from some of the other suburban schools. That's not to say that there are deficits. They just have different needs that we know that we need to address in a very special way. So we appreciate your training. We appreciate the professors in the teacher ed program that are inspiring your training, and we are looking forward to seeing a nice turnout of young professionals, young teachers to work with our urban students. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Aaliyah Jones. Aaliyah is one of our students who is, I believe, a junior or a first semester senior. It's hard to keep up sometimes with all the credit hours required. But Aaliyah is an honor student and is a mathematics secondary education major, a rarity in the field to be an African American female in the area of math. And so we know, and Aaliyah knows, that she is going to be highly recruited by individuals in school districts all over the nation. But she's dedicated herself to doing great work here at Virginia Union, and we appreciate her coming today to introduce the mayor for us. Thank you, Leah.
Good afternoon. LeVar M. Stoney was sworn in as Richmond's 80th mayor on December 31st, 2016. He is the youngest mayor ever elected to serve the city. Mayor Stoney was raised in Virginia by his grandmother and his father, a custodian. A product of Virginia public schools, he grew up on free and reduced lunch and was the first in his family to earn a high school diploma. He went on to graduate from James Madison University before moving to Richmond to begin a career in public service. After serving as a governor's fellow in then Governor Mark Warner's office, he became the first African American secretary of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the youngest member of Governor Terry McAuliffe's cabinet. As secretary, he led the largest, most public-facing office of the governor's cabinet and was the driving force behind transforming the process that restores civil and voting rights. Under his leadership, Virginia restored more rights than any other state in the country and more than the past 7 administrations combined. Mayor Stoney served as executive director of the Democratic Party of Virginia during a transformative time for the state, leading to President Obama's historic Virginia victory in 2008. At the time, he was the youngest leader of a state Democratic Party in the country. In 2013, he served as the deputy campaign manager for Governor McAuliffe's successful gubernatorial campaign. Mayor Stoney has initiated a number of long-term improvement projects aimed at building One Richmond. He launched RVA Green 2050 and issued a mayoral directive protecting rights of all immigrants in our city. He also created the Monument Avenue Commission, which along with citizen input will determine the best way to tell the full story of Richmond's Civil War history. As promised during his campaign, Mayor Stoney asked Virginia Commonwealth University, Wilder School for Government and Public Affairs to conduct a performance review. With the results of the review, Richmond is poised to increase and improve city services. Under Mayor Stoney, the city has already filled 20,000 potholes and repaired 11,600 alleys in 9 months. Since the people of Richmond elected Mayor Stoney, Richmond has been named the #2 top place millennials are moving by Time magazine and a top 25 best place to live by U.S. News and World Report. Southern Living also named Richmond one of the South's best cities. The Richmond Times-Dispatch recognized Mayor Stoney as the 2016 Person of the Year. In June 2017, he was named a Politico Rising Star. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor LeVar M. Stoney. You're welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Dr. Davis, thank you so much for having me here today, and to all the prospective teachers. And I want to thank you all for this opportunity to talk to you about the great city of Richmond. I am on a teacher recruitment tour throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Yesterday, I was at William & Mary. Visited Virginia State, University of Mary Washington, and I'm missing a place. I think that's it. But I have George Mason on the calendar. I'm to go see my alma mater, James Madison, here pretty soon. I want Richmond to take advantage of, well, our proximity and our location. We're centrally located, right? We have 4 institutions of higher education located right here in the city of Richmond. The Community College and J. Sargent Reynolds, VUU, UR, and VCU. But in an hour's drive, UVA to our west, William & Mary to our east, Virginia State to our south, Mary Washington to our north, we should be the Mecca for good educators. I know about the long, rich history of VUU in terms of your ability to produce great educators. And I want that long tradition to continue in Richmond Public Schools. You all may have heard about the shortage that we had last year, this incoming academic year, this is not unusual amongst a lot of localities, not just in Virginia, but it's around the country. A lot of different cities and counties around the country are experiencing a teacher shortage. And so they're leaning on not those who may have gone through an education program, but those who are career changers. That's happening a lot. With the new superintendent that we hired started on February 1, I said before he even was hired, I'm going to lean in terms of getting the best and most talented educators to come to the city of Richmond. And that's what I'm doing. But let me talk a little bit. Y'all already know about Richmond already. Y'all know how great it is. But my job is to convince you to choose Richmond long term, right? Since 2010, we've added over 20,000 new people here in the city of Richmond. That's more than any locality in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Why? Because y'all know Richmond's hot. Some of y'all might be from Northern Virginia. Some of y'all might be from Hampton Roads, like myself. But y'all will end up choosing to live in Richmond because the cost of living, you don't have to fight traffic, our hot restaurant scene. Y'all know the deal. There's reasons to live in the city. But particularly for me, what I do every day in public service, my job, I think, is to right the wrongs of the past, some of those past transgressions, and also not to perpetuate the continual injustices and inequities that we find in the city. And those divides unfortunately can be found in our education system. And as elected leaders, we have an opportunity. Do we continue or exaggerate those divides, exaggerate those inequities, or do we reduce them? And the best way, I think, to do that is through public education. Last week, you all saw that actually it was this week. Man, it's been a long week. Monday, the city council passed an ordinance that invested in Richmond Public Schools, $150 million for new school facilities. That was my proposal. Because I said there's no longer should we allow for kids to walk into schools where there's mildew and mold. You know, the kids are wearing jackets to receive their education. Overcrowding in South Richmond where our Latino kids go to school, eating their lunch in a trailer. No longer should we allow that. So I'm glad that the city council passed the plan by 7-2 vote that will invest $150 million over the next 5 years in building new schools in the city of Richmond. So kids will likely be able to walk through a school door, a new school, state-of-the-art facility in the fall of 2020. But beyond that, that's just one part that closes the achievement gap. Beyond that, we need talented teachers in the classroom that help us close the achievement gap. In Richmond, we're dealing with a 40% poverty rate. 75% of the children who enter our school doors are on free and reduced lunch. So we're dealing with children who are coming from a challenged environment, some who are experiencing trauma on a regular basis. And so we need educators, teachers, who are willing to go the extra mile, who are willing to be empathetic and compassionate to those who enter through those doors. I would not be here today if it wasn't for a teacher. I'm telling you this, I would not be here if it wasn't for a teacher. I knew no other models. My father pushed us to the limit, to focus on public education. But if there wasn't teachers who told me that, I could do anything I put my mind to, just like my dad told me at home, having that reinforcement in the classroom is the only reason I stand here before you today. It's the first in my family to graduate from high school, the first in my family to graduate from college. Because if a teacher saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, it makes the difference. And I believe that whether they live in Creighton or Gilpin or Hillside, that our children can rise to the occasion. They will rise to the bar that we set for them. And for far too long, we've allowed the bar to be set at average and mediocrity. It's time that we focus on excellence every single day. Because when you give them the bar of excellence, they will rise to that bar. But we got to have folks who are reinforcing that every single day. I'm focused on out of school time, how we extend the day they can actually receive academic enrichment beyond the school bells in the morning and in the afternoon. We're going to invest there. Earlier this year, we had a partnership with Sprint that now every high school freshman will receive a tablet from Sprint so they can close the homework gap. Kids going home without internet access. And additionally, we had kids who are walking into the school every single day who get in the classroom and they couldn't see from this wall to that wall. And so we made a partnership with Connexus and Vision and Learn, two nonprofits. Now 20,000 students will have vision screenings and get glasses in Richmond Public Schools. I just personally believe that our children in this city deserve just as much as the kids who live in Henrico and in Chesterfield. And that's why last year I put more money into public education than any mayor in this form of government. An extra $6.2 million focused on retention and raising teacher salaries. Now the base salary in Richmond, $44,525. Only Henrico outdoes us. That's the base. And so we have a competitive salary now. And here's the thing, I recognize, and that's why I fight with the state on a regular basis, that when you're dealing with kids who are coming from challenged environments, you need a little bit more in the classroom. Not just one teacher, but all the aides that come with it. Whether it's counseling, whether it's just having a teacher aide. You need more bodies in the classroom for these environments. And so I'm going to continue doing my part, pushing the General Assembly to look at rewriting the formulas that fund public education, particularly penalize places like Richmond. I think, I got into public service for a reason, and I recognize that our teachers get into public service, get into education, not for the money, but for the impact you can have in one's life. Now, you can go off to Fairfax, you can go off to Loudoun, you can go to Virginia Beach, because I know the town y'all have here at Virginia Union. But if you really want to make an impact and make a difference in someone's life, I need you in Richmond. I need you in Richmond long term. I need folks who are going to be empathetic, who are going to bring compassion and passion to this job. It's easy to obviously walk in, do the job, and clock out and go home. But I'm looking for those folks who are willing to go the extra mile. Our job is to change just fractions of people's lives. Because even changing a fraction, you don't know what that, for them, that might be more than just a fraction of them like, wow, I can really do this. So one part we're doing is obviously changing the school facilities. And with the new superintendent, Jason Cameron, who came from DC Public Schools, he's focused on equity. His former job in DC Public Schools was he was the chief equity officer. Then he was the chief talent officer for DC Public Schools, focused on teachers. So we're going to develop teachers inside the district, that core team. I kind of see it like a franchise, right? You get a new coach, general manager that's coming in, you want to find the folks who can build the core team. And then you go out and you do free agency and do some draft picks, bring in the other stars to boost the core. That's what we're going to do in Richmond Public Schools. And he has a goal of making sure all of our schools are accredited in the next 5 years. Ambitious. I like ambition. I like folks who are willing to shoot for the moon so we can land in the stars. I know it's going to be a tough task, but with the right talent in the right places, we can get the job done. We can start telling our kids that they can be excellent if given the proper opportunities. And to me, that begins with great teachers. And so I'm willing to take some questions. I know we have some brochures that may be handed to you all in the back. Now, here's the thing about Richmond Public Schools and the city of Richmond. I'm the mayor. I don't work in HR at Richmond Public Schools. But I'm doing everything I can to go to every college and find their best and brightest people like Aaliyah. I know Dr. Davis, you said she's being recruited all over the country, but it's my hope. I came all the way down here that, you hook a brother up with it. And so some of the questions I can answer directly, some I will not be able to. That's why we'll refer you to rvaschools.net. But additionally, we're going to have our own internal teacher job recruitment fair, the city of Richmond in February, I believe, sometime this month. So be looking out for a date there. And it's my hope that we have a very, very competitive process from all across the Commonwealth. I was at Bloom and Mary yesterday, and person I guess looked at did an interview and told the reporter that he was going to apply and come to Richmond. And I will say this: we need more. All our kids need more people in the classroom that look like them. That's the bottom line. In my whole time in elementary, secondary school, I think I may have had 2 or 3 African-American men that were my teachers. One was a PE teacher, one was math, and one was history. 3. I mean, there are no males really at all in some of our facilities in Richmond Public Schools. So males, we're looking for you to apply and bring your talents to Richmond. So I'll open it up to this question. By the way, I'm just going to call it the obvious. It's hot up in here. It is hot. It is hot. What I was going to add is you are absolutely correct. And one thing I heard from our superintendent, Jason Cameron, yesterday was that, we were talking about out of school time and how we expand and enhance that in the city of Richmond. So we're just not rolling out the basketball and throwing out the football and having a glorified daycare, after 3 o'clock. We're actually enhancing their lives after 3 o'clock. He said, the number one thing I need from anyone, whether it's, we need our kids reading again and reading well. So if every moment of their day they're reading something, it changes their life. If there's a predictor for future success, it's your ability to read by 3rd grade. And I mean, Mr. Cameron has been honest, and we are not getting the job done. We're not getting the job done, but now I feel like this is the time in Richmond where we got people's attention when it comes to public education. You know why? Because folks want to live in Richmond. And when folks want to live somewhere, they want good schools too. You talk to people who live, when I'm downtown going into restaurants and, having lunch, and people will say, I always say, brother, where you live? Oh man, I live in Glen Allen. I said, why you live in Glen Allen? I got kids. Right? I mean, I hear that all the time. But more and more now, folks want good schools where they live. And then where do they want to live? They want to live in the city. And so this is the time to I'll admit, that vote we had on Monday, I don't know whether or not 10 years ago we could have made that happen. Asking people for an extra cent and a half on their, sure, I'll have a water, extra cent and a half on their lunch. But we made it happen. And I think you're 100% correct, not just students here, because I went to a preschool over at Martin Luther King, thank you so much, and I asked the VCU kid, I said, where's everybody else at? She said, I don't see too many of my peers here reading I just need folks in classrooms, in community centers, reading with our kids. Read, read, read. Take another question. That's a hard one.
Yeah, because that's the problem.
There's not a lot. I mean, as I spoke about, I only had 3 in my entire 12 years in public education. 3. I think we have to be intentional about this, right? Early. And we got to go to folks, I think, in high school and tell them, I think you'd make a great teacher. You'd make a great teacher. And I know we got to do everything on the government side of things in terms of salary and compensation, but we have to be intentional about, we should be treating the profession of a teacher like we treat going after future lawyers or how folks go after NFL prospects. But we don't do that in American society, right? I mean, we got to pay them that way, and we got to go after them as if they're because once you get a top-notch teacher, let's say a top-notch black male in the classroom, everybody wants him. And so I think we just have to be more intentional in government about the compensation side, but also starting early saying, you should go to school to be a teacher. I think about my brother who is in the military right now. And I was visiting at William & Mary, and they said they had a program, I'm sure all the schools of education probably do, connecting with veterans. And I know my brother, and he wasn't Mr. Education when we were in school. But now, after going to the military and maturing and whatnot, and I know his love for kids, his love for athletics as well. I'm been telling him, say, hey, I think you should, once you're done with your 20 years in service, you need to be a teacher. You will definitely change someone's life. Okay, some more questions? I know y'all got some pizza in the back. It's gonna still be cooked, trust me. It's warm. We already do that, and so right now in Richmond we have I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. Richmond is a generous community. It's true. We are very, the folks here are very generous. It's the part of the Southern charm with a city like Richmond. But we have too many nonprofits doing the same thing. That's just the bottom line. Right? We got to be a little bit more strategic and targeted in what we're trying to do with our kids, right? I mean, there's one school in Richmond, they had like 35 organizations in one school. We got to be a little bit more strategic. That means our funders as well have to get strategic with us too, because everybody's getting the money from the same people. The same organizations are funding the same thing. And so how do we create a collective impact with our nonprofits? And I think we can do that with out of school time. We have a number who are already working, like YMCA and Boys and Girls Club and Next Up and whatnot, who offer programs in arts and whatnot. But how do we create a network that every child can get access to an after-school program? Every child. I don't want a child you'd have to pay for a certain after-school program, and they're getting that continues to create the inequities in our society, right? For those who can afford, end up going to a high-quality after-school program, while the other kid gets the ball and the football and the basketball. So how do we create a network where all kids in Richmond Public Schools get access to great after-school time, which includes the arts, which includes athletics. But it always has to be an academic piece to everything we're doing, 24/7. And give them some, Mr. Cameron said this yesterday, let's give our kids some experiences as well. The one thing he said that, I'll admit, I was like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. He said, you know what, the way we teach in the classroom about giving folks, it's all about context, right? There's a child in an inner city who understands a certain context. But when you can you translate that context to the SATs? You might be talking about the same concepts, but you don't have context of France or going to an orchestra. You don't have any context. You can't translate that. You can't take that concept and so that's why we have such a gap in standardized tests. Because some of the kids know the concepts, they just don't have any context to put that in. And I'll admit, I'm one of them. I'm not afraid to say, I have to say, for the glory of God, I got into James Madison. Because I know I did not have the SAT score to get into JMU. So when I hear folks saying, oh yeah, this is before y'all are young, but we used to be 1600 scale. Because now it's like 2400 or something like that, right? And these friends were telling me, I was like, yeah, man, I got 1300. I got 1400 on my SATs. I was like, well, I got 1,000. But I think even if I was an honor roll student, which I was, in my school, I had no context beyond, what I knew from home and school. If you never take a child to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts or to the river to experience any of these things we have here, that's an injustice right there. And so the time that we create after school should have all that, the experience attached to academics. I'm glad you brought that up because you don't see a lot of Bunsen burners and things like that any longer. You just don't. But also, hate to say it, our facilities are so old that you wouldn't even take a chance to light a Bunsen burner in front of these. You wouldn't do that. But that's why I thought the plan we passed this past Monday was key to that. Because in Henrico and Chesterfield, They have access to these state-of-the-art facilities. In some of Richmond public schools, they're still writing on blackboards. And right there, I mean, as I started my comments earlier today, we begin the inequities right at like pre-K, elementary school. And they just get bigger, they grow as the kids get older. And so, I mean, like I said, facilities is just one piece of it. We gotta do it all well. And the $150 million is just one step. I mean, we have significant critical needs in terms of Richmond Public Schools facilities. And we're gonna tackle some of them early on over the emergency needs over the next 2 to 3 years, but we got still more to do. And you know what, guess what? It's gonna take more investment as well. Folks don't wanna hear the I word, because investment means, oh, it's gonna cost me something. But it's gonna take more investment. How do we get our kids prepared, those who choose not to go to college, right? And I think for a long time, I think we kind of made it it's like either you're going or you're not going. And if you're going, I'm gonna focus my time on you. But guess what? All the jobs, many of the jobs, vast majority of the jobs will be created over the next 10 to 20 years. You will not need a college degree. You will not need a college degree. And so we gotta do a better job. We got we have a technical center in Richmond and whatnot. But that I think is an older model, right? People get on a bus, and then we take them out to the VOTEC place, and that's where they get, the VOTEC folks at their own school. I think this has to be in every school. This has to be in every school. And and some of our schools are specialties. Some are focused on the arts in Richmond. We got the turnaround arts program in the city, but we also got to have turnaround trades as well. Because I think folks need to recognize that plumber that gets called out at 2 a.m., he gets paid. He gets paid. But I think for a very, very long time, we've kind of just said those trades, the trade jobs are not good enough, but they are good enough. And we got to do a better job of getting our kids involved in that at 9th grade. Let's not wait to 11th grade to folks to start figuring out their plan. And the one thing I love about Chicago schools, and here's the thing, in Richmond, I don't get to control Richmond Public Schools, but I have a platform. I'm going to use the platform. Me being here on campus is me using my platform on behalf of Richmond Public Schools. But in Chicago, before you graduate from high school, before they give you your diploma, you have to have a plan. What are you going to do? You going to college, you going to community college, you going to a trade school, or you getting a job, or you going to the military. Before you get the diploma, you have to have a plan. So those are some, I don't want to get too far over my skis because I'm not the superintendent, but I know the superintendent very well, and he's putting together a strategic plan that's going to tackle exactly that. Because from a more macro sense, as the mayor, if you graduate from Richmond Public Schools and you graduate without a job, all right, what does that mean for us as a city? Right? What does that mean for us? And so I'm looking at what I have in Richmond, my my director of emergency communications, and then my operations chief came to me and said, well, no, we don't have enough people to man the phones when people call for 311 or for 911 dispatchers. And I said, well, what does it take? It takes a high school education. But we have not ever connected our high schoolers as a pipeline to fill good government jobs that get you to the middle class. For a very, very long time in this country, government was a ticket for particularly the African-American middle class. Whether it was bus drivers or sanitation workers or post office, you name it, the ticket was through government. We got to get back to that because a lot of our folks are aging out. Our baby boomers are like hitting retirement age. I mean, I got folks in Richmond City Hall who've been around for 35, 36, 37 years, longer than I've been alive. But guess what? We don't have folks backing them up. And when you have a talent pool when we can access right away, our high schoolers, that's what we should do. So finally, now we're having those conversations. I can't believe it hasn't happened in the past. But how do we get high schoolers who don't have a plan into those good jobs and have good benefits too? Well, and they can still go to college. Exactly right. You can still go to college. Well, there are some. So the school board created a facilities plan. And what I have been able to find the funding for is what we call the emergency needs. So George Mason Elementary School in the East End is on that list because it's roughly 100 years old. And people like Henry Marsh, he went to that school back in the 1940s. And they said it was unfit then. And it's 2018. But then also the schools on the south in South Richmond that are experiencing just because it's growing down there, right? Our Latino population is growing in South Richmond. And so we built schools 4 or 5 years ago in South Richmond, and now we got trailers, modular classrooms populating athletic fields. Kids eating lunch in trailers. Schools that were built for 600 people now have 1,000 people in it. And so we're going to alleviate that by building some schools down there, but we can't build our way out of this, right? People think, oh, well, you just got 44 schools. You need to build 44 new schools. That is very expensive, all right? So the school board is going to have to make some tough decisions because we have 24,000 students in Richmond Public Schools, and we have 44 facilities. That's a lot of schools for only 24,000 students. And so we have to use every tool in the toolbox. So that means consolidation, rezoning, renovating, and building new schools. We can use all of those. I have a real problem with investing in HVAC units because it costs, anytime you have a school, it costs the same amount no matter how many people in the school, right? If you have half the enrollment in one school, then it costs the same amount to open the doors every day as a full school. So I prefer investing in children and teachers instead of investing in more HVAC units and more repairs in old schools when we can consolidate. $150 million only goes but so far. So they're going to really, really stretch those dollars. And you stretch that by making other tough decisions, and that means consolidation and also rezoning. No school board likes to rezone because you're gonna upset someone. Like, I've always been to this school. What do you mean I don't go to the school anymore? No, because it's overcrowded. But folks will listen to you if you explain to them the why. And we've been unwilling to actually even talk about why we do things sometimes. Like, do you want to go to this overcrowded school, or do you want to go to a new school, but in a new district? We got to talk about that. Or what we're going to do, and we're seeing this in South Richmond, is it's okay for our Latino babies to go to a school that's way overcrowded, but it's all right for the kids in the East End to go to half-empty schools that are 100 years old and decrepit. Inequities. So why is it okay for the Latino kids to go to a school that's 1,000 kids in it, in trailers? Why is that okay? That's not okay. I think about George Wythe High School. Okay, that same school that it was during segregation today. Same school, nothing has changed. You look at a picture from 1970 or 1967 to a picture of 2018, same school. We've ignored it. We've neglected it. So I told when I ran for mayor, I said, I'm going to give you the cover to do the hard things, and I'm doing everything I can to give them the cover to make the tough decisions. So they'll make those decisions. They already have. George Wythe needs some, without a doubt. And this is one of those things where, unfortunately, the teacher has to wear so many hats, right? You got to be nurse, mother, father, counselor, you name it, everything. And this is the hard part about how do we, as mayor, I get to experience, I get to see some things and I'm just like, whoa, I can't. When I hear parents say like, oh, I ain't talked to so-and-so, 14-year-old, in 2 weeks. What do you mean you ain't talked to your child for 2 weeks? What do you mean? Yeah, you know, he was in school the last 2 weeks, and now look what's going on. That just blows my mind, because my grandmother and my dad would never. And so, unfortunately, we have a generation of parents who, more or less, are my age. With a, you know, so for me, from the mayor's standpoint, is if I can get their parent a stable, good job in a good neighborhood, then I'm doing my part, right? Because normally, if you can stabilize their life at home, you're gonna get a better performance from the kid in the classroom too, right? So when I talk about building new schools again in 2023, you know, folks want to like, well, we got to use that $300 million the city's going to have and build new schools. Like, no, slow down. We got to build new schools and also build new communities as well, right? Because if we don't change the community our kids are coming from, then the performance is going to be the same way in that new facility. But in the meantime, I can't put families into new mixed income communities. Still, I got to still have the services there to get them from self-sufficiency to critical, their life is in a critical stage to self-sufficiency. So for me, that's the job part. Now, on the education side of things, getting a parent involved, I mean, that is, let's divide this as well, right? There are some parents who can't be involved because they're working, 12, 16-hour days, all right? That's one parent. I can understand that. They're trying to keep food on the table and a roof over the child's head. Now, the parent who doesn't have a job at all and can't come to now, I do have a problem with that. I don't know what the city, what the state, what government can really do about that, though, right? That's why when they do enter those school doors, they got to see our faces, someone who loves them, in a facility that loves them back, too, right? That's the fraction I'm trying to, they may go home to a place where they may not get a meal that day, but guess what? You come to school, you're going to get a good meal. And when you stay with us till 7 o'clock, to 10 o'clock, you're going to get a good meal. When I started early on, I said, I wish I could keep the kids till 10 o'clock every night. And then, then they go home. But we can't do that, right? We can't keep kids till 10 o'clock. Folks checking out, I don't know if I would be. But we can't keep them till 10 o'clock. What I'm trying to do, we sell. One program that I'm working on for the city is how do we go about celebrating fatherhood in Richmond? It shouldn't just be one day on Father's Day. How do we celebrate? I want to get all the fathers in one room. They do this in Chicago as well, right? And the one thing that they all share, and they might be all of different socioeconomic statuses, affluence, poverty, what they share, their father. But how many times does a father who's struggling to make the ends meet get to be around another father who maybe living, maybe a lawyer, maybe a doctor, all in the same room? That's what we need to do more of that, and celebrate fatherhood. I know you had a question.
I'm actually a special education major too. I've noticed most of the schools I go to, there's very, very few, I would say, quality special education teachers. Are you doing anything to maybe change that?
I think that's something that we're going to be considering in this upcoming budget is special education and English as a second language, right? Because we have a high amount of both. Of special ed needs, and just we don't have enough teachers who do speak Spanish as a second language, and so those will be I think a focus of the upcoming school board's budget. So this is how it works: the school board comes up with a budget. I do budget because they have no taxing authority, so they're allowed to create a wish list of items and say, "Hey, Mayor, we need some money." And I'm like, I don't have an extra $90 million laying around. But what I can do is focus on your priorities, though. And for me, the priorities will be, I think, English as a second language and special ed. So we're going to do more. But I will say this. I've heard from other people that the city of Richmond has better special need offerings than the counties do. And I think it's probably because of the fact that we have a higher amount of students who need those services. Here's the thing, my job is, I have the strings on the money and the dollars, right? And so I have the power of the purse to kind of dictate, like, these should be the priorities. And we kind of, that's how we collaborate. I'm trying to move away from a city where the school board and the city council and the mayor are at each other's throats every time. It doesn't exude confidence to parents. So I can talk to the superintendent about that, about when we hiring qualified. And here's the thing, I have an abundance of faith in this superintendent compared to some in the past. I really think this is the gentleman who can get the job done. And it's not just provisional licensed. We have a number of provisional licensed teachers in Richmond Public Schools. A lot. That's why I'm here. Right? I mean, we have a shortage, and then we have a number of just provisional licensed teachers. And then we have such a large shortage that I think it was 37 to 40 long-term substitutes in Richmond Public Schools. So the teacher changes sometimes by the quarter. To me, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. How many are in the field right now? Or student teaching, or? Oh, wow, seniors. Okay, wow. And do you all know what you're going to do next? Or have you guys applied? Can I ask a question? Have y'all applied? Anywhere yet? How many have applied to Richmond Public Schools? Okay. I need a little bit more. I mean, Mr. Substitute, I mean.
I'm from Missouri, so I'm going back home.
That's an easy cop-out, bro.
Well, the thing is that the out-of-state employers, the HR people are coming to interview our people. So everybody's trying to get there's a critical shortage all over the country, actually. Mm-hmm. So, it's like a competition in hiring. We'll do this for you, come to our school district.
And that's why I think this is a great opportunity for policymakers and lawmakers, and also for education advocates, because I think since there's such a high demand, the tables have to turn a little bit, right? So it's like a buyer's market for teachers right now, right? Like, I mean, you can kind of get to dictate where you want to go, and you would hopefully think that you also dictate the sort of salary and compensation you should receive, right? And that's why we raised our base salary, because we got to stay competitive with these other places, or inner city school districts like ours will lose out on quality teachers. And then what does that do? Like I said earlier, it just exaggerates the inequities in the system. I want a quality after school program. To me, means there's quality individuals there with them, qualified, right? And then number two, whatever it may be, the curriculum, that's also quality too. Whatever we're delivering has to be quality. But you got to have quality professionals who can do that. And also, we have to measure what we're doing as well and attach that to their academic outcomes in the school setting, right? If we're investing in out of school time and there's no impactful change in their performance, then what are we spending our money on, right? So we got to see all those things. So we got to be able to measure what we're doing too. Who's been going to out of school, after school programs from K through 5, and what has their performance been? And we can track that currently in our middle schools. I know next up, they can show you the schools that we're actually in, the 3 middle schools that we're in, how the cohort of kids has their performance in reading, math, and science has changed. It's gone up. Getting an individual, a superintendent, who has a past background in developing and attracting talent is key. It's critical. It's key because when I said earlier about him, he has to go in there and find that core of great teachers who are already inside the system, right? And I'm sure over time, There will be some teachers who will say, this is not for me. That's just going to happen. Because as one thing he said yesterday, and I was like, oh, we really got a problem. He said, I'm visiting he's at 15, he's doing 44 schools in 100 days. I did 44 in 1 year, so I'm like, good luck. That's his job, though. But this is sad to hear, though. 15 schools he visited, 15 different curriculum. He said, when I'm done with this, every elementary school is going to be teaching the same thing. Every middle school is going to be teaching the same thing. Every high school is going to be teaching the same thing. When you have 44 different, what are we doing? Like he said, he's gone to a number of elementary schools already. He's walked into different elementary schools teaching different things at different times. That's what we're dealing with. And so it's somewhat, he has to do a little bit triage. It's true. And so when people say, oh, well, he requested the other guys the top administrators move on, he's going to bring his own team in. I'm saying, good. I'm okay with that. It's time for something new. It's time for some change in Richmond Public Schools. He has me as the partner. My job is the investment side. You done? Yeah, I'm done. Thank you, guys.
Hello, I'm Daniel Brown. I'm a junior in our education program. And on behalf of myself and everyone here, we would like to say thank you, Mayor Stoney. It is very inspiring from you to hear that teachers or future teachers have been placed as an emphasis on education. And we will continue to work hard here at VUU to make Richmond better. I want to thank you again, and please join me in giving another round of applause to Mayor Stoney.
Wow. Tough choices for a new mayor, tough choices for a new superintendent, tough choices in a tough time, but our children are worth it. They're worth every bit of it. And we just want to say to Mayor Stoney, we wish you Godspeed. We know you have it in you to get this job done, and we hope that you have all the support that you need